we shall take a look at the DXY. So if you haven't checked out the analysis coming into the week from the weekend, the weekly analysis I posted, the summary or the conclusion of that, and especially regarding USD, is that I'm kind of looking for more USD strength. The dollar is not necessarily strong right now. Yes, it's gained some strength the past kind of few hours, but overall we've been in a pretty bearish trend. We're seeing lower lows and lower highs. But to me, it looks like the market is running out of steam. Looks like we are becoming a bit more fatigued, a bit more corrective. So I do think at some point in time, the dollar is going to have a bit of relief of that and see a bit of an uptrend. And that's kind of what I'm looking to wait for. And hopefully some buying opportunities can look to form after that. Basically, what I want to see on the dollar is a strong up move, something like this, and then a correction of that. And then the buys hopefully will follow on a nice pullback somewhere. Basically, bit of an inverse head and shoulder pattern. There's your left shoulder, there's your head. That kind of gives you the neckline, and there's your right shoulder for the buy. So that's kind of really what I'm waiting for in terms of a big swing buy for USD. It looks like we are starting to form a low here. We're picking up some strength, so perhaps now it's time for a bit of a pullback. We have been moving in this descending channel for quite a while, bouncing off the lower end of it as well. So it looks like we are starting to cross over into the upper region of this channel, and possibly you are going to push back into the up end of the channel there. So I'm looking for a lot more upside before I do look for buys myself. But again, I'm not really interested in shorting the dollar. I did mention, keep an eye if you are intraday. If you're looking for intraday opportunities, I think short still makes sense as you do approach this kind of area here. There might be a nice reaction for a couple of days. You can take advantage of that. But I think the bigger move for USD will be to the upside. So if you do get short, be wary of that. The market's been short for quite a while, showing signs of fatigue. I'm not necessarily expecting us to keep selling off to the downside in this kind of manner. I would need to see a lot more bearish momentum for me to have a bit more faith that this bearish trend is going to continue. And right now, we're just not really seeing that momentum, so I expect more upside. But I can understand looking for shorts as we approach the up end of the channel, coming back into a nice area of supply to our left. This could give us a nice reaction. I'm just not expecting anything too big, because I do think the bigger move will be to the upside. So that's really what I'm banking on. So taking that information into EURUSD, looking for some downside. This one's already looking pretty bearish this morning. We've got pretty much the similar setup over here with this trend line confluence. So of course you're connecting this low, this low, this low, and possibly a new low could form. So again, looking for more downside for Euro. This could be a nice area for a buy. As I said, I think this is a nice area for a buy, especially intraday, keeping it short and sweet. I'm not too sure about a big swing for Euro and a continuation of the trend, because I do think Euro is quite tired, and we could be looking at something like this over the next few days, which is basically the inverse of what I'm looking at on the dollar. And that's kind of what I'm looking to try and take advantage of in terms of shorting Euro. But again, we're a long way away from that. Still need to see a lot more downside and a big pullback before I can talk about those shorting opportunities. So for now, if you are looking to buy Euro, it does make sense. I would wait for price to push back into this area at 1.63. Not only have we got a nice area of demand where we did push up really well, we've got prior resistance to our left, which of course will be turned support. And you've got a healthy trend line running through the market connecting these swing lows. So it does meet up quite well with a layer of confluences. Excuse me. So keep a close eye on that area. Could be a smart place for a buy. The only thing is I'm not expecting a big move. So that's the main reason why I'm not so interested, because I think the market's a bit overbought. And I think the bigger move is going to be to the downside, which is kind of what I'm waiting for. But I would keep a close eye at 1.163 for some opportunities. Pound USD, kind of the same situation as well. We've been bullish for a while. I do think pound's running out of steam as well. Fairly frequent pullbacks. We're coming quite corrective now as well. So I do see pound USD doing something like this over the next few days, few weeks. So I'm not so interested with the buys, more intrigued with the sells. I did suggest a retest of this consolidation, which kind of did get it last week, but I was hoping for a bit of a deeper test than that. More so kind of into this area before shorting. Looks like pound's already pretty weak right now, and we don't need that pullback necessarily, and we're looking pretty weak right now. I did say on the weekly analysis that we're looking for shorts off the retest of this area for a push into at least this area for the week, I think that's a realistic expectation. Prices bouncing from that consolidation. We've got kind of a big consolidation underneath us over here, which did give us a lot of momentum, and no retest since the breakout. So price could come back and retest that area. Perhaps we do see a bounce to the upside as well. The market is still bullish technically until we do break out and take out some structure. The price can do that, then we'll be bearish indeed. But again, price still got a long way to go before it does that. So at the moment, pound USD is looking bearish. I do expect us to keep falling at least back to this area. Perhaps there could be some short-term buys off that level. Similar idea to euro, coming back into a nice area of demand. The market is still bullish, so buys are still a good option. It's just that we are probably coming more to the end of the trend. So if you are still going to take buys and look to follow the trend, keep it short and sweet, or just manage closely. If you see some red flags creeping in, it's probably the market's going to reverse. So be wary of that. But yeah, I would keep an eye on some buy opportunities at 1.35. Maybe if the market was to push back up again, there might be some shorts later in the week. I'm not too sure if we will go do that, but that's a possibility. So I'll keep an eye for that. But at the moment, this might be a nice area for a short-term buy. So keep a lookout for that if you are interested. Dollar CAD seems to be quite bullish. Might have left us in the dust a little bit here. I did say I was keeping a close eye for some buys this week for dollar CAD. I was looking for hopefully a deeper test of this support level, and then looking for some buys perhaps on the counter trend line break, which would have been a nice confirmation. We did get that early in the morning, and now price is really committed to the upside. So I was hoping for us to kind of have a deeper test of this area, maybe even wick through the low, then give us the reaction. But looks like early Monday morning, prices are already showing a lot of signs of momentum. I think maybe CAD's a bit weak as well. But yeah, dollar CAD looking pretty bullish. I've been speaking about some dollar CAD buys in terms of where we're trading. You can see if we look to the left, massive area of demand. Last time we were here, what happened? Very, very big move to the upside. So naturally expecting buyers to be entering positions back here again. I'm not necessarily expecting a huge up move from this area, but I do think we can have a reaction. And of course, we're having one at the moment. So in terms of opportunities for dollar CAD, since we've had the reaction of the low now, the next best opportunity would be some pullbacks to retest some of these lower time frame structure. So if I drop to the hourly, something like this to come back and retest structure, or even a retest of this high here as well. Again, these are more intraday setups, kind of looking for a trade for maybe a few hours for the session. This is a nice idea because you're looking to trade that momentum and you're looking for pullbacks to continue it. So dollar CAD to me looks really bullish. I think more upside is likely. Looking at this as a large double bottom, so my target for the week is a push back to this resistance level at 1.378. So that's where I expect us to get to. So in my book, there's a lot more upside to be had for dollar CAD. So pullbacks and buying opportunities in the lower time frames is kind of what I think would look good, especially if you're looking for those shorter term intraday opportunities. Aussie dollar looking pretty bearish. Looks like it's just missed my 0.66 area. It looks like we're having that big sell-off, which we've been looking for. I haven't necessarily broke out of the channel yet, but we are seeing some serious momentum, and I wonder if that is what we're kind of looking to do. So with Aussie dollar, I've spoken a lot about how corrective we've been, and because we're so corrective, I do expect us to kind of break lower. I was talking about pushing to 0.66, which is basically just the up end of the channel, just like we did over here, So basically looking for price to smash into that level, find some rejection, some shorts in that area, stops above the high, and then hopefully trade it back to the lower end of the channel. Looks like we got about 80% of the way there before price decided they didn't want to do that and reverse. So unfortunately missed out on some shorting opportunities there for Aussie. We are approaching the low of the channel. There might be some nice buys. We have been very, very consistent, to be fair, off the low of the channel. So there could be a buy opportunity there. I'm not really interested. Reason being, because when I do see corrective markets like this, my expectation is always expecting price to break lower. So looking to try and buy and follow this trend isn't really something I want to be doing. I want to be trying to go against it and find momentum lower. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, there might be some buys, so keep a lookout for rejection. If we do go and break through, then I do think the floodgates can open, and we can see a lot more downside for Aussie dollar. Probably a push back to this area, at least. I think we can probably go further, but at least around 0.63. So yeah, keep some close eye as we come back to the lower end of the channel. New Zealand dollar, pretty much doing the same thing as Aussie, both kind of moving in corrective channels. The Aussie dollar is a bit more easy to spot, but both of them moving in channels here, so you can see higher highs and higher lows overall. But for the most part, New Zealand dollar has been very corrective on the way up. We rejected the high of the channel last week, and since then the market's been very corrective, but we've picked up momentum recently, and it looks to me that price is just on a one-way ticket back to the low end of the channel. So again, we'll see what price does there. Perhaps we do bounce again. I think we'll probably break through, but we'll see what type of price action we get when we get there. And if we do break through, then looking for a push back into this low. Not too sure about how far we could go, because this is a pretty big level. But we'll probably look into that a bit more when we actually do get the breakout. But for now, very strong move down. Expecting a lot more downside there for New Zealand dollar into the low end of the channel. Gold, I'm not a big fan of gold. I'm kind of just staying away from gold for now, just because the way I see gold is kind of like a big consolidation, really. So I'm not trying to force any opportunities inside of this unless they look very, very clear to me, which at the moment, not quite so. I don't mind the buys here as we do approach this level here again, sort of looking like an inverse head and shoulder pattern. There's your left shoulder, there's your head, there's your right shoulder. That's your buy. So really you want to be seeing buy confirmations in this area to take gold to the upside again, or at least a push back into this high here. So you really want to be seeing some confirmations there. As I drop to the hourly chart, not quite seeing that, but I do like how price is moving. We had a very strong move down, and it looks like momentum is starting to die out, and we're starting to move a bit more corrective. So perhaps if you can see a strong push to the upside, that would be a nice entry confirmation. And then we can target the high end of that resistance, maybe further as well. Gold, after all, is still bullish in the bigger picture of things. So I do have that natural bullish bias for gold, expecting price to get to 3,500 and beyond. But for the most part, for the past few weeks now, couple of months even, gold is essentially moving sideways. So it's always going to be a bit difficult trying to find those intricate positions inside a range, because you're always going to get that natural fluctuation, and stops are a little bit more prone to getting tapped and faked out. So I'll be cautious in there for gold. But I like the area, especially on the lower time frames. Just wouldn't look for anything too big just because of how we're moving. But a push back to resistance there makes sense to me, around 33.63. And finally got silver, which is starting to fail at the highs a little bit. I did manage to get a position on silver last week. I was hoping to see a slightly bigger retracement into this area. Unfortunately, didn't quite see that. We formed a lot of wicks just above it, and that was apparently enough for silver to see some upside. But we're not really setting the world alight anymore. We're kind of fading at highs right now. Did see a pretty big rejection there. Can probably just box this whole thing off and just call it consolidation, really. I still like the possibility of a retest of this daily level. So that's really where I want to find my entries. Not so interested about the price action in here. I think we are pulling back into some prior resistance, which will be turn support. I think this could still be a nice place for a buy. Something of a bit of like a bowl shape pattern. But again, it's inside a range. It's a bit more of an intricate position. It's not of high quality, especially with how price is moving. Always at risk of getting kind of wicked out in this kind of scenario. So I'll be very careful about the buys in this area. Because essentially we're trading in the middle of the range, which is normally not a good idea. So this looks good because it's kind of out the way of everything, testing a big level, which we had a very strong breakout of. There's a brief range here as well, which I know if price taps into, a good chance of price reacting as well. A lot of buying pressure came from there. So I like this area because it's away from the noise. Can get relatively safe stop loss, retest the big level in the daily chart. It's a reasonable place to expect price to continue a trend. Inside of here, Sure, there might be some nice buying opportunities, but be careful. Conditions are very, very choppy.